Global warming is the long-term rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system. It is known to be a major cause of climate change.
Global warming is becoming a threat to the whole world. As we speak, the issue of climate change is an emergency because at the moment we have the whole temperatures rising by 2 degrees centigrade, yeah, and that in itself is as a result of global warming occasioned by carbon emission.
As a result, the effects of global warming are quite immense, not only in the developing world, but globally.
We have cases of drought, shrinking water bodies. Lake Chad, back home is drying up by more than 10%, its original size. That in itself has led to people losing their livelihoods, people who depend on Lake Chad. Hydroelectric power operations around the Lake Chad has also dropped drastically. We also have similar stories all around Africa and of course the developing world.
As a way of curbing this menace, the ODA and OECD allocates funds annually for climate finance in order to cater for a better and improved economy.
At the moment, at the OECD, the issue of climate change, climate financing is in the agenda. But how is this in the agenda? We have put together some $100 billion allocated to climate finance annually from both the bilateral donors, the multilaterals, and of course the private instruments. Yeah, all of them, targeted at climate finance. But how is this happening? Has it been disbursed? We have concerns as to how the ODA, climate finance is being disbursed because to some extent it is being administered through the private finance for green technologies, for green businesses, yeah, which of course at the end of the day ends up as some kind of business activities that have really not led to improving the conditions that we live in, that we find ourselves.
Ironically, the rising number of deaths in the African countries is a great concern for the ODA.
The ODA also has to do with the way the funds are also being administered, that it is also contributing to increasing debt, because some of them go to developing countries as loans. Yeah, it's also contributing to increased debt. How can funds released to African countries, for adaptation activities, now find itself contributing to increase debt profile of African countries? So there's rising, debt profile in Africa and other developing countries. So why should the funds, ODA, that is going for climate finance now be involved in increasing the debt burden of African countries? So that's one question. Of course, there are other sources of financing climate issues. The global finance fund, the GSEF fund. Yeah, that fund in itself, the way it's also being administered, the issues of transparency and accountability is also being called to question. And then in terms of the sufficiency of the funds are grossly inadequate. Both the ODA and other sources, the funds for climate adaptation, for climate mitigation are grossly inadequate. So how do we leverage funds? How do we also, even at country level, improve our policies? Yeah, because part of the problem of the OECD DAC as it relates to climate financing has to do with incoherence in terms of policies that guide the administration of ODA to climate finance. So for us as civil society organization, we want to see a situation where there are clear policies that guide the disbursements of ODA, climate finance. At the national level, the recipients of ODA, what programs do we have for climate change adaptation and mitigation in our countries? So as civil society, it's important that we begin to look at all of those, hold our governments to account, because as regards the Paris Agreement, for which most of our governments committed to, where are we with the implementation of the Paris Agreement? At the national level, some countries have developed their national action plans, the NAP. Where are we with the implementation of those NAPs? So that in itself is much of concern to us as civil society. Our government, there are some countries where even the government does not even provide budgetary allocation.
The CSO is therefore working on clear policies that guide order disbursements by working hand in hand with the government for quick implementation of the policies.
In most countries, people are just sloganeering. They are just talking about it, they are just mouthing it. There are no concrete actions to deal with these issues. And every day, we are face to face with the realities of climate change and its impact. In Africa, everywhere. Is it agriculture? Is it fishery? Everywhere you have the impact. So, until we find ourselves right under the water someday, maybe that is when the reality will dawn on us. And in fact, for me, we fear that if temperatures rise, maybe up to 4 degrees centigrade, where will we find ourselves? The whole world will be burning.
Many countries, especially the developed ones, play a major role in polluting the environment.
It is important that countries that are emitting carbon, the developed world, should also understand that those who pollute should also pay for their pollution. To clear the mess, polluters must pay, so you don't have to shy away from it. Because we also see food dragging, even after all the commitments by the donor community, by the developed world, you still see food dragging. Countries like Canada, they are big-time emitters of carbon. USA, Japan, most of them, they are abandoning, their commitments. They are not living up to expectation. We expect them to live up to their expectation, to deliver on their promises, to contribute to a reduction in carbon emissions.
There is therefore a dire need for the countries to take responsibility of their actions. The fight against global warming should be a universal affair.
For us as Africans, we also need to do more in terms of designing our national policy frameworks, to accommodate. We should deliberately come up with policies and programs that will help us to adapt to climate change issues, that will also help to reduce the impact of climate change on livelihoods, impact of climate change on even the ecosystems, on our natural habitats, so that we don't wake up one day and find everyone swimming inside the water.